No.
A few stories here, but I'm going to condense it for you. I know we're time deals. I first met Tony in 1958 at Bakersfield Air Park. I was out there with another old Bakersfield guy by the name of Charlie Brent. He was trying to get a blown flathead to run and not doing too good. And Tony and Jim Chagru walked out, and Charlie Brent introduced me to him. A little story there on the sideline. I just got an email from Charlie before I left from Seattle to come down here. Tony worked at Richfield out on 8th Street. He was a body shop, and the guy next to him was the electrician shop, which was Charlie Brent's grandfather. Well, Charlie's grandfather had to retire early because of lung breathing problems. And I didn't know this. He said Tony brought him, his grandfather, a new bottle of oxygen every week till he died. Of course, we all know that it said Richfield Oil on the bottles. Tony was very adept at improvising. Had seen Tony run 200 in Bonneville. My folks, we were on vacation, and we ended up there because I liked hot rods, didn't know much about them, but that's the first nitro I got to sniff, was in Art Chrisman's coupe. I can still remember standing behind it, smelling that thing. He was running it. My God, I never dreamed that I would be doing it as long as I did. We all enjoyed Tony's Model T with the GMC 6-cylinder that ran so good at the drags. Tony had a 51 Chevy convertible that he painted burgundy and chopped the top himself, painted, and also had a Carson top on it. It had a hopped up GMC 6 in it also, ran as good as it looked. I'm new to this technical stuff. I was out in the parking lot, Lefty Richards, Bob Richards, I mentioned, I said, you bought that car? Yeah, he did, I did buy it. I said, you still have it? No, he said, got T-boned in Santa Barbara, it's gone. So we know what happened to that. The evolution of the Roadster from the black primer to smoker purple and ending up with pearl white. A story could be written about Tony's love affair with the DeSoto, making horsepower and going fast. Along with partners Jim Chagru, Herb, and Gary Quinn, runner up to Art Chrisman, the first smoker March meet. I do remember that. I think all of you racers will never forget that. Tony's driving style with the head looking down. Tony was up in Washington, and we went out on my boat for a week, and we drank a lot of whiskey and had a good time. And, you know, Tony drank cranberry juice and vodka. He told me, I said, Tony, what the hell is that looking down deal? Well, he said, I'm going to tell you. He says, I tell everybody a different story, but I'm going to tell you the truth because you would understand. In those days, we had a flagman, and the flagman would point to one guy and point to the other guy. Well, Art kind of did this too, so I remember him doing it. Well, what Tony would be doing, he would act like he wasn't really ready, and he was looking down, but he was still looking at the starter. Tony wasn't late too many times. He looked down, it appeared like he was checking something in the cockpit. He was watching the starter, not checking anything. The starter would flinch and Tony was gone. As he told me this with that Waters Gwynn, he was a cagey old fart, wasn't he? Tony and I, along with Ralph Evans and Baby Huey, towed thousands of miles together. Funny stuff. Transmission trouble in Texas. With this, you're going to love this one. We'd raced at Green Valley, Texas, and we'd leave in town Monday morning. And we just got on the highway and the transmission. All of a sudden, we look back and it looks like we're doing a burnout. Lost the transmission, pulled over beside the highway. Couldn't go any farther. You know, Tony, he's always got a plan. So we unhitched the trailer. Now this is in a freeway in Texas. We unhitched the car. We put the trailer ramps across this ditch to work on a car, right? So we get the car pushed on the top of it. We're under there. Baby Huey's got a picture of that deal. And birds start to tear it apart. A few kids come by, and they were drag racing fans. Yeah, we know where we can get you transmission. So Tony took off with them and come back on transmission and oil. And Huey and I just about had the thing out. About this time, the Texas State Trooper comes by and he says, "What are you guys doing?" "Well, changing transmission. What's it look like?" He said, "You know, there's a hell of a storm coming." He said, "This ditch you're in," which was about 4 feet deep, perfect for working on a car, just like on a ramp. He said, "This baby's going to be full in a couple hours." Yeah. So we kept going. We could almost stand up to work on it. But then I missed the block here. Everything's going good. It started raining. It really rains in Texas, almost like Washington. By the time we were done, we had water up to our ass. We were putting the last bolts in the transmission. And the water was unbelievably fast. You couldn't imagine how fast a ditch like that could fill up. We got back on the road and headed for the Greeks place in Chicago. Our first taste of those wonderful White Castle burgers. I think there were 6 for $1. It only needed 1. A lot has been written about Tony Waters' horsepower and his involvement in so many cars of all types. The last time we talked, it was about the Motorsport Museum in Bakersfield. One comment made was, "Someplace for old racing junk to go." Tony supported, and I hope all of you will too. Tony was able to race right up to the end, and to be able to race with Neil Brandon, Bud Vick, and Gary Gwynn, and Manuel, all of his smoker pals, to race and tune a car with his son Darrell driving, one of his proudest accomplishments. I know that because he told me so. Being a smoker was another thing Tony was proud of also. I will miss my friend Tony so much. Bakersfield without Tony Waters. As Tony said more than once, when we all get our turn.